More reaction to the Champions Cup final then, and this time some player ratings. So unlike my previous video, which is in the feed, and go and check it out, my immediate thoughts following the full-time whistle, I've had a little bit of time to just gather my thoughts, look back through my notes, settle the heart rate down, and try and make some cold, calculated assessments of how the players played. Of course, this is a game of opinions, and that's where yours come in the comments down below. So yeah, I've just got some player ratings. I'll be interested to know what you think. I've got the starting 15s, and I've picked a couple of the replacements that had either more game time or more to go on to be able to offer them a fair grade. And as I say, only my opinion here. I'm going to start with the front row, and those are the scores I'm giving. Manny Iogan a 7. I mean, he conceded a scrum penalty, and then what I really liked was the reaction. He went and won a big scrum on his own line. I like the cut of Manny Iogan's jib. I hope he's taken on the England summer tour because he's promising. And I'll tell you what, when he came off after about an hour or so, when he left the field, he was the top tackler on the park. He had 14 tackles. He absolutely... And bearing in mind how much lactic acid is in your legs when you got a scrummage, to get up and have the engine around the park, you could see that he was a former back rower turned prop. But he's a very, very handy player. Curtis Langdon, I gave him a 6. Really busy game, put a lot of tackles in. I mean, you wouldn't have known he had a bad shoulder that meant he was touch and go for the game. So I thought that was really good. Again, another player I hope is taking on the England summer tour. Not straight at the end. He might have felt hard done by about that. When he did come back on, there was that not straight. There was a knock on. So I've given him a 6. And Trevor Davison a 6.5. He got on the wrong side of Nico Ramashekeli a little bit at scrum time, but he looked pretty decent to me. And then on the other side of things, Jefferson Poirot found it a bit tough going in the scrum. Davison got into him a bit, but really busy around the park. Lamotte is such a good player. I mean, he absolutely butchered a couple of try opportunities, but I mean, he's so good, is Max, and the line-out functioned really well. Falatea, I thought he was the best of the front row forwards today, just all hustle and bustle. They're really glad. One of the players that has been out injured recently, and him coming back was a big boost. The fact that they can put Ben Tamafuna on the bench, who I've given a 7 as well, and have him coming and busting it on is because they've got someone as good as Falatea to start, and I thought he was the pick of the front row forwards for me. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Right, second row. Let's get into the engine room. Timu Maya Vanua, I know he's leaving Northampton Saints. Will that be his final game? I'm not sure if he's going to play in the game next week. I would guess that might be his final game, particularly as he went off injured with a knock. I think in a way he was the one player Northampton Saints didn't want to lose from the park, because having lost Joanna Augustus, their main ball-carrying threat, Timo Maya Vanua, he kind of did a bit of that job. And him leaving the field meant there just wasn't quite the gain line dents that meant that Alex Mitchell had quick ball, which meant that Finn Smith could move on to the ball. And we never really saw the Northampton Saints backline get moving. And I think a big part of that was no Joanna Augustus and Maya Vanua going off. Obviously the other injuries in the backline didn't help that either. Lockett, I gave a 7. Really industrious. The way he held up, was it Lamotte that he held up? Anyway, he held someone up over his own line and managed to turtle them on their back. And he did absolutely brilliant for that, and some bone-crunching shots going in as well. I thought this was the one area, and I did say in my preview video when I was looking at the matchups, I thought the Bordeaux front five had it over Northampton, and I think we saw that mostly in this second row. Coleman and Cazot got the better, and they were massive for Bordeaux, both at line-out time, but especially around the park. I tell you what, Cazot, man alive, that guy hits rucks like it's going out of fashion. He just absolutely smashes everything. Coleman was really good in the line out, was good in that edge forward role, just hanging on the touchline. Yeah, I thought they were really good in the second row. There we go. Let's get into the back row then, where mixed bag really. And in my preview video, I said if I had to just pick one back row, I said I'd take the Bordeaux front row and second row, but I would take the Northampton back row. And that's kind of how it panned out in this game. I think Northampton were the better back row. Albeit, look at that, I've given Henry Pollock a 5.5. I was thinking about that. Had he scored those tries, he would have had an 8.5, and everyone would have been talking about him, and he would have been on the back of every newspaper and on the front page of every website in the rugby world. But it didn't pan out like that. He was kept very, very quiet, and those moments didn't fall for him. Everything he touches seems to turn to gold. This was the first time that didn't really happen. It wasn't Henry Pollock's day, but what a player and what a talent and what a season he's had in this competition. Absolutely unreal. So that, I mean, anyone who makes any big judgment out of one not quite so good game and starts to say, see, he's not the real deal. No, this kid is the real deal. Kemeny, so gave up a few penalties, I thought, but Alex Cole's pick of the back row on the park, and he dragged the Northampton average right up. I was talking on the video earlier, like maybe Alex Coles would have been my man of the match. He would have been in contender. But I did sit and think about it a little bit and thought, actually, there were line-out steals on his own line. 2 tries, obviously, was absolutely outstanding. That shirt pull on Ben Tamafuna was a big moment because, yeah, that was a really, really massive moment. With the momentum, the way it was swinging, that was a big error. And I don't think Alex Coles needed to do that because I don't think Tamafuna would have got to Pollock. So he might be counting the cost of that one, but he had a fantastic game. He was the best Northampton Saints player, I felt. And on the bench, Marco Gazzotti came on and threw his weight around. Thought he was really good. But Petty and Samu, not so much. Or Diaby, for that matter. Diaby only played half an hour because he went off at half-time, but he had a yellow card as well. When he was on, to be fair to Diaby, he put in some massive shots, big defensive energy. But Petty, thought he got outdone by Coles, and Samu, quite a few errors. So, mixed bag there. As for the halfbacks, I mean, this is where the game was won, wasn't it? These two, Luku and Jalabert, won the match for UBB. And I was thinking about it, and earlier, and in the chat, I kind of said, Luku got the man of the match, fair play. Should it have been Alex Coles, though? I actually think maybe the question I would pivot to is, if it was going to be anyone else, should it be Jalabert? Because it was a tight game, and there were opportunities spurned. And had it not been for that absolute moment of utter genius from Jelly Belly, Bordeaux may not have won that game, but the fact he managed to just have that footwork, those dancing feet to get around the whole Northampton pack, pretty special. But Luku was amazing as well. The way he would pin Northampton back, his kicking game was amazing off both feet, kicking long. Antoine Hu, and he was going around taking names in defence as well, was Luku. I thought Mitchell did a lot of good things, made some errors. There was a few passes that went astray, but overall pretty good. Finn Smith did not have his best day at the office. And it's not that he was poor. It's that, again, I talked about no Augustus. I talked about Maya Vanua. He obviously had no Furbank to help him as a second distributor. It just meant all the pressure was on Finn Smith. They weren't able to get that quick ball on the front foot, which is when Finn Smith just picks defenders off, lifts it into holes. And the cohesion in that back line with the injuries, it's no surprise that Smith wasn't able to influence the game the way he normally does. So it was his day at Twickenham against France for England, but it was the Frenchmen that got their day in this competition. Centre, fairly even battle. I think Moafana, slightly better than Hutchison, especially that first try, I can't remember which one it was. Moafana, I think it was the first try. Absolutely powered through, got them on the front foot so they could just walk it in on the touchline. Dingwall tried to become that second playmaker with no Furbank on the field, but didn't really work, but defensively he was solid. Deportier, I thought, was the best of the centres, and the way that he shut down the edges of Northampton, people regularly talk about outside centre being the hardest position on the pitch as defensively, and I thought Deportier did an ace job there. Shut down all of the problems and was pretty handy on the counter. And the back three. Obviously, I cannot give a score for James Ram or George Furbank. They were on the field for only a matter of minutes, which had an influence on how Northampton played overall, how the rest of the back three played. Poor old Tommy Freeman did his best, but he was the only remaining member of that original back three after 5 minutes, and then he had to slot in at fullback, which he's not as comfortable on, and you'd have got so much more out of Tommy Freeman if George Furbank had been 15. There you go. Gave him a 7. Slight home a 6, who showed some glimpses. and he did all right. Litchfield the same. Defensively, he did well to chase back and beat Louis BORDEAUX for speed, but there were holes everywhere in the back line, and Luku and Jalabert, they were just picking them off. It was a really, really tough job for those guys. And Penaud and BORDEAUX, I mean, in terms of wingers at club level, doesn't get a lot better than that, does it? What team has better wingers than that? Penaud, I was thinking he might be being rushed back. We saw when he played for England, played against England, he'd been rushed back from injury and he had an absolute shocker. He was good, as was Le Beep Beep. And when you do whack the ball long, as Bordeaux kicked long, having two guys that quick to put that much pressure on, they showed a lot of effort running back and forward. BORDEAUX went off injured, but looked really good until he was. And there you go. So on that basis, sort of changed my thought a little bit. You can see where the game was won. The class on the outside with BORDEAUX and Penaud able to engineer and take opportunities, and the halfbacks ultimately won that game. I thought, again, to repeat what I've already said, Northampton Saints, the heart they showed, the collective unity they've got as a group with a budget that must be half the amount of Bordeaux's, it was amazing. And it's just a shame that they had some key injuries before. They were going into the game with quite a few players not 100%, and then they had those two early injuries, and that did for Northampton Saints ultimately. But to keep it within 8 points, to be level at half time, and then everyone thought they'd gone ahead. They just ran out of steam because Bordeaux just brought wave after wave of pressure and deserved their victory for me. For the record, if I was giving Nika Amashikeli, the referee, a score out of 10, I'd probably give him a 6.5. Something like that, 6.5 out of 10. I thought he missed some decisions, but the TMO, maybe the TMO was man of the match. The TMO stepped in and said, you've missed that one, and the correct decision was made. There's some decisions you can disagree or agree with, but I didn't think Nika Amashikeli affected the result. So he's been something a lot of people have been talking about. I think I'm sure Northampton Saints won't be sat there tonight worrying about the referee. They'll be thinking about some of the mistakes they made that could have made the difference. And one final player who I haven't mentioned, maybe the MVP of all Champions Cup rugby, Arthur Retière. His third title for his third different club in 4 years. He should just name his price. Anyone that wants to win next year, sign that man up. Right, there's some more thoughts. I really appreciate your support on the channel, giving the video a thumbs up, hitting subscribe, most importantly, getting stuck in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.